So glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Tuesday. Condemnation from Canada and world leaders over Israel's targeted strike.
The president views Qatar as a strong ally.
What the assault on Hamas in Doha could mean for the conflict.
It's not the place you come and put a tent on the side of the road.
A city's ultimatum over homeless encampments.
This is nothing but a tax grab.
Plus, vandalism accelerates the speed camera debate.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Massive explosions rock Qatar, Israel calling it an assault on the senior leadership of Hamas, who used Doha as their headquarters. It is an unprecedented attack, but not the first time Israel has gone after the masterminds behind the October 7th massacre. CTV's Adrian Gobriel is on this story, and Adrian, a strong reaction from officials in Qatar and across the Middle East. What are they saying?
Sandy, Israel's latest military maneuver is being condemned as cowardly and a violation of international law that could upend ceasefire negotiations indefinitely. Smoke paints the sky black on a dark day in Doha.
It certainly is an escalation of this war.
The deadly daylight air assault is believed to be Israel's first ever inside Qatar. This Hamas residence, now left with a gaping crater in the capital, is said to have been the target, just as the latest ceasefire proposal was being considered. Hamas says that 5 of its members were assassinated in the attack, including the son of exiled chief Halil al-Hayya. Though al-Hayya, seen here, who is believed to be the prime target, has survived, according to Hamas.
These are the same terrorists who planned, terrorist chiefs who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th.
As Israel's prime minister took responsibility, the attack is sending shockwaves across the international community.
I condemn this flagrant violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar.
Britain's prime minister saying the priority must be an immediate ceasefire, the release of hostages, and a huge surge in aid into Gaza. In Israel, the families of hostages believe today's airstrikes may have sealed the fate of their loved ones.
Crushes the hopes of all the families. It's just, it's devastating.
There were several days ago warnings from the Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff that Israel was going to start targeting Hamas's leaders no matter where in the world they might be.
Israel's air assault in Doha comes after Hamas's armed wing claimed responsibility for shooting and killing 6 people on Monday at this bus stop in the outskirts of Jerusalem. The latest escalation comes as Israel issued an evacuation order today for residents in Gaza City, with the IDF sharing its intentions for a full-scale operation. The operation in Doha involved 15 Israeli fighter jets firing 10 separate airstrikes on a single target. Sandy.
CTV's Adrian Gobriel. Prime Minister Mark Carney has condemned the Israeli strikes on Qatar. On social media, Carney called it, quote, an intolerable expansion of violence and an affront to Qatar's sovereignty. He went on to say, regardless of their objectives, such attacks pose a grave risk of escalating conflict throughout the region. Well, the White House also issued a tough statement after the attack, and it comes at a critical juncture when the U.S. is leading a new push for peace in Gaza. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon is with us now. Okay, Joy, we know that the Americans were given advance notice, but talk to us about the White House response after the attack.
Well, Sandy, President Trump on his Truth Social just said that Israel's decision to strike Hamas in Doha was not his decision. He says he instructed his special envoy to inform Doha of the imminent strike, but Trump says it was too late to stop the bombing. The president is clearly frustrated after saying that a ceasefire was possible last Sunday. He even warned Hamas that this is your last chance to accept the U.S. plan for a ceasefire and hostage release. Now, a statement from the president, it seemed to scold Israel. Have a listen.
Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal.
Okay, Joy, as we've been saying, Qatar is very involved in ceasefire talks with Hamas and is an essential U.S. ally. So what will this do to the relationship between the two countries?
Well, this is going to be tough, Sandy. The Qataris are furious, and the White House is trying to smooth things over. In fact, the president just directed his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to finalize a defense cooperation agreement with the Qataris. Doha is home to the largest U.S. military base in the region, and Trump was there just last May, given the red carpet and welcome, even a jet. Trump called the emir, assuring him that an attack like this will never happen. Sandy?
Okay, CTV's Joy Melvin in Washington. Thank you, Joy. Now, the war in Gaza has touched Halifax with a decision to have this weekend's Davis Cup match between Canada and Israel closed to fans. Tennis Canada cited security concerns after local authorities and national security agencies weighed in. More than 400 Canadian athletes and academics have called for the match to be cancelled, blaming Israel's actions in Gaza. Tennis Canada's CEO calls the decision very disappointing. The mayor of Barrie, Ontario, has declared a citywide state of emergency. It is over the growing number of homeless encampments, the escalating safety concerns after a double homicide, and the devastating toll of unregulated drugs. CTV's Heather Wright is in Barrie, which is the entranceway to Ontario cottage country north of Toronto. Hi, Heather.
Well, Sandy, about 600 people are believed to be living in encampments here in Barrie, a number the mayor says is likely higher. And today he sent a message: get help or get out.
From Michael Gervais' front steps, the extent of Barrie's encampment challenges is clear. More than a dozen tents dot the sidewalk, a number he says is growing.
The drug use is rampant out here. It's nonstop. It's all day.
Gervais says in addition to drug use, violence is escalating as well. Recently, 2 pieces of metal rebar were thrown at his house.
One hit close to the door, and the other one came to through the window.
Today, Barrie's mayor declared a state of emergency over homeless encampments, citing a recent double homicide, fires, overdoses, and excessive E. coli levels in the city's waterways.
It's not a safe environment for the folks who are living there. It's not a safe environment for those who are around them, who are walking by them, or who are permanent neighbors of encampments.
The emergency declaration covers all city-run public spaces, including parks, sidewalks, and trails. Mayor Alex Nettle says it will allow staff to enforce encampment protocols more aggressively, including dismantling the sites considered most high risk. The city has also earmarked more resources for addiction, mental health, and housing. But Nettle adds if people don't accept help and get off the street, they won't be allowed to stay in the city.
The folks who've been offered help and offered support, if they don't take it, that's their choice. That's not the people of Barrie's choice.
Encampments have been growing in cities across the country, especially since the pandemic. A lack of affordable housing, limited support services, and nowhere else to go have pushed many to live in tents. Those we spoke with today who didn't want to appear on camera worry about being forced to leave or forced into shelters where they don't want to go.
Advocates say simply removing encampments doesn't address the root issue, simply moves the problem elsewhere. Barrie has not given a timeline on when these sites will be removed, but says it will likely take months. Sandy.
All right, Heather Wright in Barrie. Well, the federal Liberals are meeting in Edmonton this week as they plan for a return to the House of Commons on September the 15th and the fall budget. CTV's Abigail Beeman is in Edmonton covering the caucus retreat. Okay, Abigail, what happened today?
Sandy, this is the second day of smaller breakout groups, the Women's Caucus and Economic Caucus as examples. The Prime Minister arrives here this evening and he'll have much to hear from 169 Liberal MPs before the House resumes next week. Hoping MPs in the hotel will hear them, a group of healthcare advocates wants to hold Mark Carney to the Trudeau government's promises on pharmacare. Alberta is not one of the 3 provinces and 1 territory that have a deal, which impacts Crystal Sutherland's mother, living with type 1 diabetes.
It would be a huge financial burden off of somebody who is on a budget.
But this isn't the Trudeau government. The health minister is not yet at the event. Her office tells CTV News the economic context has changed since pharmacare was launched, and they're reviewing the existing agreements before any next steps.
They're making excuses, using weasel words like protecting agreements rather than actually implementing the full law. We don't think that's acceptable.
Not furthering pharmacare is only one potential difference. The government has yet to firmly commit to previous climate targets for 2030 or 2035, with some MPs launching their own environmental caucus.
It's normal for MPs to want to get together to talk about certain things that they care about.
Former Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault said he'd attend the new environment meeting, but wouldn't share his thoughts on potentially not meeting targets. A senior government source tells CTV News these meetings are about sharing and listening, making sure MPs are comfortable with the government's plans, and taking questions about some of the, quote, hesitancies from caucus, which may be a gentle word with the threat of cuts looming.
I don't know about cuts or anything. I mean, there's all speculation about all kinds of things, but look, caucus cohesion is important all the time.
The full caucus, including the Prime Minister, meets tomorrow morning, and Wednesday afternoon, Carney has a sit-down with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
Right.
Sandy?
Okay, Abigail in Edmonton. Now, the Prime Minister has also been teasing an announcement on housing in the next few days, and it will come after new numbers show that housing starts are at their lowest levels in 30 years in one region where the need is the greatest. CTV's Mike Couture is with us. Okay, Mike, walk us through those numbers.
Well, Sandy, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation says slowdowns in Vancouver and Toronto weighed on the overall number of housing starts. And there is a concern that it could affect housing supply in the future. Home building in Toronto fell to its lowest level on a per capita basis since 1996. According to a report from Canada's National Housing Agency, Vancouver also saw a drop in housing starts compared to the first half of last year.
There's this slowdown in activity that will potentially recreate kind of those issues in terms of pressures on prices, pressures on rents.
The CMHC says pre-construction sales are slumping by double digits in Toronto, which is forcing developers to delay project launches in a city that is in desperate need of new homes.
The cost of construction has gone up drastically, and the number of people that are out there looking to buy has gone down again drastically as well.
A near record pace of apartment construction in Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, Ottawa, and Halifax helped offset the sluggish numbers in Vancouver and Toronto. Developers believe cities could see even more growth without municipal development charges, which help pay for roads and sewers.
We need to be able to reduce that for, even if it means just completely eliminating it for a good period of time so that our industry can pick up.
Red tape is another complaint, which Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre would reduce with a suite of measures.
Get rid of the sales tax, cut the development charges in half, speed up the permits, zero tax on reinvested gains.
In a statement, a spokesperson for Housing Minister Gregor Robertson said the government is going to build homes at a pace and scale not seen in generations, pointing to a yet-to-be-announced program called Build Canada Homes. However, there are still no details on the measures the Liberals intend to implement.
Okay.
Sandy?
Mike Couture in Ottawa. Thanks, Mike. Well, we're starting to see more evidence of Canadians pulling the plug on purchases of EV cars and trucks, largely because of the end of consumer incentive programs, but also now that the Prime Minister has paused Canada's 2026 EV target. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin has more on the implications and what it means for the industry. Geneviève.
Yes, Andy, with EV sales moving to the slow lane, some have questioned whether cheaper Chinese models should have a spot in the market here. If Canadians were in the driver's seat, it seems Chinese-made EVs could have an easier road into the local market, at least according to a Nanos survey. It found 6 in 10 Canadians support removing 100% tax on all Chinese-made electric vehicles. This in hopes China may remove tariffs against Canadian crops like canola. Canada imposed that tariff in October 2024, saying it was protecting local manufacturers from unfair trade practices by China. But since, sales of EVs have hit bumps in the road. New numbers show EV sales dropped 39% since last year, and plug-in hybrids 2%. Statistics Canada points to rebates for zero-emission vehicles drying up. That drives up the cost of EVs. Some say a mix of incentives, mandates, but also a more open market could help boost sales.
It's going to be a more efficient transition if we open up the market so that anyone who can provide quality electric vehicles that our consumers choose to buy, there will be only that much more choice for consumers.
Without tariffs, but also without adding the costs of safety certification and shipping, the price tag for a Chinese-made Seagull by BYD, now the world's largest EV manufacturer, is around $13,800. Some in Canada's industry say the low cost could come at a high price.
Certainly, running around with a blind spot isn't good, but also giving away your market because pressure, because EV enthusiasts would like to see these Chinese vehicles. Well, the enthusiasts don't employ anybody.
Canada won't say exactly what it will do, saying only that for now it is reviewing the tariffs. Sandy.
Okay, Jen, thanks so much. And a developing story on tariffs as we go to break. The U.S. Supreme Court will decide on the fate of President Donald Trump's sweeping worldwide tariffs in November. The court has fast-tracked a hearing after two lower courts found most of the tariffs on countries were illegally imposed. The case has been set for the first week in November. The tariffs will remain in place in the meantime. The case involves two sets of important taxes that Donald Trump justified by declaring a national emergency, and that includes the ones in February on imports from Canada, China, and Mexico. It doesn't include his levies on foreign aluminum and steel. Coming up after the break, the accelerating vandalism of speed cameras.
17 cameras in, the last 2 or 3 days.
And why Ontario's premier is weighing in. Someone is waging war on Toronto's speed cameras, knocking them out under cover of darkness. At least 16 were damaged just last night. The city is calling it coordinated vandalism. CTV's Alison Hurst is in Toronto with the mystery and the controversy. Alison, what are police saying today?
Sandy, police are taking this very seriously. They say that overnight these 16 speed cameras were vandalized. They have additional resources coming in to help them investigate and look at all of the, analyze everything they can to try and track down the suspects. And this also happened just a couple of days after another speed camera on the other side of the city was vandalized. That was the seventh time it was vandalized. So they are taking a service-wide approach.
This is an ongoing investigation, and it's been ongoing for the last several months from the first occurrence occurred. So we're actively canvassing, speaking to residents. And again, I must say, we're appealing to the public. If anyone see any persons who appears to be suspicious around these cameras, please call police.
All right, Alison, talk to us also. The Premier has weighed in. We know we heard from the Mayor earlier. But talk to us about what politicians are saying about all of this.
Yes, we did. We did hear from Mayor Olivia Chow as well as from Premier Doug Ford. Mayor Olivia Chow saying that these speed cameras are in areas where there's community, there are kids walking to schools, and it's really important that they're in place to try and reduce speeds to keep everyone safe in those areas. Meanwhile, the Premier was saying that it's time for cities to look at alternative traffic calming ways and to scrap these these speed cameras. Back to you, Sandy.
All right, CTV's Alison Hurst in Toronto. Thanks, Alison. Still ahead, caught in the chaos. A warning to Canadians as deadly protests grip Nepal. A travel warning has been issued to Canadians in Nepal to avoid government buildings over ongoing student protests. Demonstrators defied a curfew order, clashed with police, and then set fire to the Parliament building.
Yeah, we got tear gassed for a couple of hours, and they were firing at us as well, just kind of doing anything to keep us back.
19 people were killed yesterday in the unrest ignited by a ban on social media. The Himalayan country now enters a new era of political uncertainty with the resignation of the Prime Minister. A Russian airstrike has killed at least 24 people waiting to collect their pensions in a Ukrainian village. The haunting ring of a cell phone goes unanswered, where the guided bomb struck just hours before as seniors waited in line. 19 people were also wounded. And some 70 containers fell off a massive cargo ship at the port of Long Beach, California. They can be seen scattered in the water with the contents spilling out. It's unclear what caused the incident. It can be tough out there if you're looking for someone to love. And now a new poll suggests it's getting meaner too. Example, instead of the old-fashioned face-to-face breakup when love is gone, many are apparently opting out of relationships by text or cell. CTV's Andrew Johnson now on the findings and the phone factor.
Canadians, both young and old, can be guilty of it, spending a lot of time with their head buried in their phone.
Conversations are now lost because people are doing this instead.
But a new online poll of 1,000 people is defining a difference in what those growing up with this technology and those adopting it later in life think is appropriate. Take ending a relationship. 29% of Canadians aged 18 to 34, so Gen Z and millennials, prefer to break up with someone over the phone, a text, email, or on an app, compared to just 14% of people aged 55 plus.
Those were the two biggest surprises of the survey, just how much the younger generation, people aged 18 to 34, are turning to online tools for everything, for breaking up with people, for quitting a job.
When it comes to making phone calls, another divide. 58% of the younger crowd report having to phone someone they don't know makes them anxious. Just 35% of the eldest cohort in the survey feels the same way.
Does that make you anxious to phone someone you don't know?
Yeah, I literally avoid doing that.
I got no problem making a phone call, especially if I'm trying to get something done.
How about ordering food? 59% of 18 to 34s use an app, so do 51% of those aged 35 to 54. But for those born in 1970 or earlier, only 32%, with the majority still loyal to a good old-fashioned phone call or going in person.
There's that element of discussing something with another human being. The over 55 wants to have a detailed discussion about the topics of their pizza.
One expert calls it the great oxymoron of our time.
Despite the fact that this technology is remarkably able to connect us, to bring us together, at the same time, it is also disconnecting us. It's isolating us.
And leaving us walking around like this. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
All right, then. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Omar will be here later tonight. But first, your local CTV News is coming up. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.